Hello, everybody, and welcome to English Grammar with Ameya sir. And today we are going to go back to the 10th standard from today. Until the last lecture, we saw the ninth standard syllabus. From today, we will start or restart the 10th standard. And now we will deal with the fourth unit. We finished the third unit and now starting with the fourth unit. But the lesson, the unit is not 4.1. I have on purpose chosen the unit 4.6, which is an incredible story of a beautiful relationship between a couple. And this story will bring about some happiness in these melancholic times of the COVID-19. You don't have to be a 10th standard student to enjoy this story. You could be any viewer on my channel, and I have no doubt that you all will thoroughly enjoy this story. Well, I won't give you the climax right now in this lecture because we are going to divide it into various lectures. I won't finish the lesson. It's a big story, so it won't be covered in this hour. So I will not kill the fun and provide you with the climax and tell you what happens at the end, but I will definitely give you a little synopsis. So what is the name of this story that we are going to study today? The name of the story is The Gift of Magi. Remember the pronunciation, The Gift of Magi. Guys, it is not Maggie. For one thing, Maggie is spelled M-A-A-G-I. This is Magi, and that's why you see in the bracket I've provided the pronunciation according to the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet. So you should read it as Magi, the Gift of Magi. It's the 4.6 of the SSC board 10 standard higher level. Now, why is this lesson so interesting and what is the story? What is the synopsis? Well, here is something about the story. It's a story which tells us about the love of a couple, a husband and wife. They both care for each other. They both love each other. And it's Christmas time. Now, they are not rich. This is the thing to be kept in mind. They are not rich, but they both want to do something for each other. This is the cuteness overloaded part. They don't have money, but they both want to do something for each other, and they definitely succeed in doing something for each other. But there is a definite twist in the story at the end, and as I have already said, well, it's not fair for me to reveal the end. I want you to be there to enjoy the ending, the climax. It's no point revealing what happens at the end right now. The lesson is quite beautifully written. There is certain element of vocabulary. The grammar entries are not as many as you would like. Normally, the chapter is big, you have a lot of grammar entries. Not quite. This lesson focuses on vocabulary, phrases, and in general, usage of language rather than the grammatical aspect or entries of grammar. So, without further delay, let's get started with the chapter. Remember the title, The Gift of Magi. And before we go ahead and know about the poet and eventually start the story, let's ask this question. Who are the Magi? So I'm sure this word is new for you guys. That is the reason why I have probably created this slide. So the Magi are the people who give gifts to others. They think well for others. So basically they are kind-hearted, they are large-hearted, and they are called lion-hearted. They're very generous people. Now there is a reference to this in the Bible. The wise men or the kings who carried gifts with them when they visited baby Jesus after his birth. So those that's the reference, okay? Those people are called the Magi. Remember that, the gift of the Magi. So who are the Magi here? Well, the husband and wife are the Magi because they both will gift each other. They do not have enough resources to actually gift something to each other. We'll see that in the story, but they do something on account of Christmas. They do gift each other something. What's that? We'll find out. Let's learn something about the author. Who is the author of this lovely chapter? O. Henry, 1862-1910. William Sidney Porter. Now, this is his real name, guys. Better known by his pen name, O. Henry. So, O. Henry is the pen name, remember. So, he used to write by the name O. Henry, but his real name is William Sidney Porter. Now, is it very common in literature? Yes, it's not just common in literature, it is common everywhere to have a nickname or a pen name. A pen name if you are a writer, but nickname for sure. Let's go ahead and see some examples. In the sporting world, uh, Bharat Ratna Sachin Ramesh Tendulkar is known as Master Blaster, right? In the music field, the legendary Bharat Ratna Lata Mangeshkar is known as Anandagan. Similarly, if you're talking about literature, coming back to our subject, the writer of Tom Sawyer, Mark Twain. Now, Mark Twain is not his real name. His name is Samuel Langhorne Clements. In Marathi literature as well, you have Vishnu Vaman Shirvarkar, who was famous as Kusumagraj. So it happens in every field. There is a nickname. Well, that reminds me, I'm going to teach you a very good word for nickname, or the pseudonym, as they say. The word, and for that I'm going to take you to the notepad. Well, even before the lesson starts, we are at the notepad today. The nickname or the pseudonym. Now, when I say pseudo, it's P-S-E-U-D-O. Okay, the pseudonym. The better word that I want you all to know is sobriquet. Sobriquet. Okay, sobriquet. Very, very important, guys. Sobriquet. Now, the T there is silent. Please remember that. The T there is silent. Sobriquet. Alright. Let us see. Are there any other examples? Yes, even Vishwanathan Anand is known as the Madras Tiger. So the concept of nickname, pseudonym is very common indeed. I'm sure you've made a note of this, so we can go back to the PPT. So O. Henry, and he was an American short writer. By the way, there is a typical feature of his writing. What is that? He was famous for his art and his stories, which had surprise endings. And I've already told you that the ending of this particular story is very interesting. In fact, that is what makes the story so interesting. That's why I have chosen 4.6 directly before dealing with the other units. Started with 4.6, and this is the reason for the surprise endings. The Gift of the Magi, remember it's not Maggie, is a story of an impoverished young couple who have no money yet wish to buy each other Christmas gifts. Now, impoverished, it's a verb form, guys. It is the verb form. So if in the exam they ask you provide the verb form of poor, it is impoverish. Remember, poor, poverty is the noun form. Poor is the adjective. If they ask you the verb form, it is impoverish. Now, how to use impoverish in a sentence very quickly? Because when you learn the word, and impoverish is a very odd verb form. Normally, you don't have the verb forms like that. So, how to use it in a sentence? We can say that India was impoverished during the colonial British rule. Okay, impoverished. So this is over here an impoverished young couple. They like each other, they love each other, they want to do something for each other. It's the Christmas time, but they don't have money. So what do? We'll find out. And what else? That's it. That's about him. You can search more on the internet about O. Henry and find out more about his other works. So I'm going to start reading the lesson now. The first part of the lesson, guys, let me come on cam. The first part of the lesson, at least the beginning, is about their house. How was their house? Introduction to the characters, their poverty, how much money did they already have, or something like that. And then eventually it will lead us to the main plot. Okay, when I read it, you know what I'm going to say next. Give me your 100% undivided attention. So let's start reading it. Enjoy the story. It's just amazing. Okay, so let me start reading it. You can read it with me in your mind. $1.87, that was all, and 60 cents of it was in pennies. Pennies saved 1 and 2 at a time by bulldozing the grocer and the vegetable man and the butcher until one's cheeks burned with the silent imputation of parsimony that such close dealing implied. 3 times Della counted it, $1.87, and the next day would be Christmas. I'm going to explain everything to you. Such a beautifully written chapter. So, The character number 1 here is Della, the wife. Okay, Della counted the money she had, and there was really nothing to count. It's just $1.87. $1.87. Guys, that's not much. Clearly, what could she have done with that kind of money? Now, even that money, $1.87, was achieved in what particular way? By bulldozing the grocer. What do you mean by bulldozing? Pressurizing. And she used to argue with the butcher until she felt embarrassed. You know, when you really try to save a lot of money and continuously bargain over the price, and definitely there is, after one point, you do feel embarrassed, like how much lower do I want the other person to go. Imputation, a typical quality or action associated with a person. So imputation is a typical quality, and it's often a negative or a slightly bad quality. What is the imputation here? Of parsimony. Now, parsimony is not money of a certain Parsi fellow. Remember, guys, by parsimony, I'm not referring to money of a Parsi fellow. I mean parsimony, parsimony, which is reluctant to spend money, unwilling to spend money. So she had the reputation of spending less money. Now, this is something that is very important and makes me have a smile on my face, because see, I am a Kokanastha Brahmin. So normally this attribute is to us, like we are unwilling to spend the money. I am not like that, but still they say that, okay, there is an element, there is reluctance while we spend money. I don't agree with that, but yeah, imputation. And the other word was parsimony. Remember parsimony, that's a very important term. I think imputation you might have heard. Let me know in the comments if both the words were new for you. Anyway, Della counted the cash 3 times. How many times? 3 times. Now you all know what's the point in counting. She just thought it's like your answer paper. You know, when your teacher gives you the answer paper and you try to total it and try to find somehow, if there is a totaling mistake. So she also tried to count whatever she had. She did that thrice, but every time she got the same total, $1.87. And clearly, that's not enough. She could not have done much with that. I think you are required to write this down, and I shall grant you a minute for this, guys. A minute should be absolutely fine. Nothing more than that. Okay, I'm not going to give you anything more than a minute. Your time starts. I will definitely be with you at the end of this minute. Last 5 seconds. And your time is up, and I have no doubt that you have made all the necessary notes, and that means that we can go to the next one. Oh, oops, there is one more entry, guys, but this one, it's okay. It's nothing to really note down. It's just for you to listen to properly. What's this note, guys? It's about the pronunciation. Look at the word vegetable. Guys, do not pronounce it as vegetable. Pronounce it rather as vegetable. Imagine there is table and the table is veg. There's a table and the table is veg. And you say vegetable, not vegetable. Just go ahead and say vegetable. Okay? I'm sure you got that. Not vegetable. The G is not so clear. Vegetable is wrong. You should better say vegetable. The table is veg. Vegetable. So that's what the entry was. Well, I hope that there are no more entries there. Yeah, that's it. So I'm going to continue with the lesson. In the first slide, we saw that Della only has $1.87. There was clearly nothing to do but flop down on the shabby little couch and howl. So Della did it, which instigates the moral reflection that life is made up of sobs, sniffles, and smiles, with sniffles predominating. So, what is the meaning of flop down? Which means to collapse or fall down. So, she had nothing to do but just to drop down on the couch, which was a shabby couch. So, what is the meaning of that? Shabby means worn out, old, or dilapidated. Guys, this word is new. Dilapidated or dilapidated. Now, what is the meaning of dilapidated? The meaning of dilapidated is to be in a state of disrepair due to age or due to a passage of time. That is called dilapidated. So the couch was also not new. I told you already, the poor. So she just had to flop down, do nothing, because what could she have done in $1.87? So there was nothing for her to do. She just thought maybe she should just sit down on the couch. What else do we have here? She thinks that instigate is a word which means cause something to happen or initiate something. Initiate something, very important. And she thought that life is nothing but a mixture of sobs and sniffles. But by the way, she thought that the sniffles were predominating, which means with major control or existing as a major element. Well, we did talk about this in a few I think a couple of weeks ago we talked on this point, that I don't believe that in life there is more sadness than happiness. There's always more happiness than sadness. And that's because you should just think about the happy things. You should know that there is more happiness. The more you think about the sad things, then you become sad. So we did talk about this point in depth a few lectures ago. But Della thinks that in her life there are definitely more sad things than happy things. So one important entry here, I believe. Let's go back to what we were studying here. Okay, now here you can see that sniffles is this example of repetition. There's figures of speech. This can be a repetition because the word sniffles is getting repeated. And by the way, what do you mean by that? Sniffle is to make the sobbing, the inhaling sound when you cry, trying to breathe harder. So that's called a sniffle. So she thought that in life there's more sadness than happiness. It's not the case really. Is there anything else? No, nothing here. Let me just make sure. No, nothing else. So for this one as well, you get a minute. I will see you at the end of this minute. Enjoy the music. Okay, the time is up and I'm sure you are done with the needful. By the way, guys, I hope that you also made a note of sniffles. Very, very important. Breathe or inhale rapidly while crying. You can make a note of that accordingly. So far, I believe the lesson is very clear. And now we will probably in the next one learn about their house. Yes, so let me read it now. Stop doing your work, guys. When I read it, please pay 100% undivided attention so that the learning happens. I will give you time at the end of every slide to make your notes, and if you're still not done, you can always pause the video. But while you're enjoying the lecture, please be with me 100%. Let's start. While the mistress of the home is gradually subsiding from the first stage to the second, take a look at the home. A furnished flat at $8 per week. It did not exactly beg a description, but it certainly had that word on the lookout for the mendicancy squad. So there are Definitely a few observations to make here. A furnished flat. What do you mean by that? Furnished flat means a flat provided with the necessary furniture and fittings. Like you have the taps in place, you have the attic, or you have the doors, you have maybe a small storage facility. So those are the things, furnishings. Another observation is the mendicancy squad, which means this team of police that arrests the homeless and the beggars. You're not supposed to just live like a vagabond on the streets. What word did I use, guys? Like a vagabond. So that's the mendicancy squad. And I will explain this in detail. So let me tell you what this paragraph was about. This paragraph tells us that they had a house. It was not a posh or a lavish, luxurious house by no stretch of imagination. They paid rent, $8 per week. There were necessary fittings. It was furnished, but only with the basic amenities. And by the way, their condition, their living standard was such that they were not rich, of course, but also they were just above the poverty line, so that they wouldn't be arrested for being homeless or living as beggars. So they were really able to make their ends meet. Make their ends meet means barely able to survive, barely manage the livelihood. That's the meaning there. There's one more very nice observation there. So let me share that with you. Look at that. Well, it's written as $8, but it should be read as $8 and not $8. This is a very nice observation. Okay, you put the $sign first, but you don't read it as $8. I'm sure when you heard me, you heard it properly. $8, right? I didn't say $8 per week. $8 per week. So the sign might be written first, but it's the number that gets read first. Okay, very important point, guys. Very important. It's a language aspect. Okay, not necessarily a grammar aspect. That's it. There's nothing more. This also deserves nothing but a minute starting now. I'll be with you at the end of this minute. All right, so your time is up, and well, I have no doubt that you are done jotting down all that was necessary. Let's continue. When I read, as usual, give me your attention, undivided attention. In the vestibule below was a letter box into which no letter would go, and an electric button from which no mortal finger could coax a ring. Also appertaining thereunto was a card bearing the name Mr. James Dillingham Young. Well, what's a vestibule? Vestibule is a small chamber leading to a bigger or the main room. So it's like a lobby or a small chamber that actually leads to the main room. And there was a letter box there. And there was never a letter addressed to them. So they never received any letters. There was an electric button. And by the way, guys, this is the important thing. Did you listen to it properly? I said button, not button. It's not button, it's button. The is very clear. Button. It's not button. Button. So the button was such that no mortal finger, by mortal finger you mean human finger, no human finger could ever coax. Ooh, that's nice. We have to make a note of that. Let's go ahead. That's, I think, very important. Coax is to the persuasion or repeatedly make an attempt to get something, to achieve something, to obtain something. So try hard as you may, you are never going to be able to make that doorbell ring. So no mortal finger was ever able to coax the ringing sound out of that doorbell. And by the way, it also would be the case that they probably don't have a lot of visitors because they're so poor. I don't think they have a lot of guests. That could be the other meaning of that. And what was the nameplate? Mr. James Dillingham Young. Guys, you already know that the wife is Della, and now we know that her husband's name is Mr. James Dillingham Young. By the way, she used to call him Jim. We will study that in the subsequent slides. So she used to call him Jim affectionately, or the surname was Young. Well, I doubt they were not in such a posh and a lavish state, but their surname definitely, and the name in general, sounds quite royal. We'll find out more in the next slide. Is there any other entry? Yes, appertaining is concerning or related to. So there was a nameplate related to their on the door or somewhere, and it read Mr. James Dillingham Young. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So let's give you a minute again for this one. Yes, absolutely. I will grant you a minute. I'll join you after the end of this minute. Okay, the time is up, and I have no doubt that you made a note of everything there on the slide. Now let's continue reading. Pay undivided attention. You can try to read it with me. I always say that. The Dillingham had been flung to the breeze during a former period of prosperity when its possessor was being paid $30 per week. Now, when the income was shrunk to $20, though, they were thinking seriously of contracting to a modest and unassuming D. But whenever Mr. James Dillingham Young came home and reached his flat above, he was called Jim and greatly hugged by Mrs. James Dillingham Young, already introduced to you as Della, which is all very good. Was such a sweet gesture, such a sweet gesture. First thing is that again, for the second time, you must have observed that it is not $30 but $30, and also not $20 but $20. We saw that in the previous slides. There is a space issue, I believe. Here, I think there is a space missing. I cannot decipher whether it's a missing space or it's just okay there, but there should have been space there clearly. Now, I told you already that Mr. James Dillingham Young was affectionately called Jim by Della, and whenever he used to come back, this is how he was greeted. Now, this is what I mean by there being more happiness in life and less of sadness in the life. It's very important, guys, you understand that. They were poor, all right, but Della was happy. She was content at heart. And so whenever Jim used to come back from work, or for that matter, from any place, then he was greatly hugged by Della, and she used to welcome him. It's so nice, is it not? The AWW moment, the sweetness overloaded moment. That's the kind of love and affection that is important, has more value than just monetary considerations. The money is secondary, but then the first thing is, although they are poor, see, they're just so like, and they love each other. That's magnificent. That's the reason why we are doing this chapter. Wonderful, lovely wife. Lucky Jim, shall we say. All right, and then the entries here: flung, meaning thrown or moved with force. So they became very popular when they were in prosperity. They were paid well. Unassuming means simple and humble. So from Dilingam, they just wanted to just use the initial D instead of writing Dilingam, which is so royal. You know, people assume the character, or they assume your personality based on your name, is it not? This is very important, guys. And there is something I want to share with you, talking about the spelling and the initials. A lot of times I get this question: how the people here in India, manage their spellings. When it comes to the name where you have a sound, not a sound, it should be double A at the start. For example, if your name is Aditya, it's not Aditya, it's Aditya. It should be double A-D-I-T-Y-A. I repeat, it should be double A-D-I-T-Y-A, not A-D-I-T-Y-A. It's Aditya, it's Aditya, it's double A. If your name is Arya, then double A-R-Y-A. I have seen even the boys here in India, when they have the name Arya, they do it as A-R-Y-A. It should be double A-R-Y. But then there will be confusion. So maybe they do it like that. But then A is a double A sound. Not with my name though. My name is Ameya. In my case, adding that A at the end is very important. It's Ameya. So it's not Ameya. It's not double A there. But you need the A at the end. So it's A-M-E-Y-A, because the Y is complete. It's not Ameya, it's Ameya. So the A is required at the end. Very important that people should do their spellings properly. There are so many occasions where the name Pooja is, well, it's actually P-O-O-J-A, but you will often find people do it as P-U-J-A. There are variations, even for that matter, Preeti, P-R-I-T-I and P-R-E-E-T-I. Very, very interesting this. You should see to it that it is, well, as close as possible to how you want people to pronounce it. Anyway, now back to the lesson. Here, Dilingam was far too royal, and so they wanted to just cut it short and write only D, because they thought that they only deserved the initial D and not the Dilingam. They didn't deserve that, they thought. What else? Is there anything else in this slide, guys? No, nothing else. I don't think, guys, I need to give you a separate minute for this one. There are only 2 entries, so you can pause the video and write them down and continue the video. For the moment, I'm just going to the next slide. Now, this is a big one. It looks like a big paragraph, so please pay proper attention as I read it. Della finished her cry and attended to her cheeks with the powder rag. She stood by the window and looked out dully at a grey cat walking a grey fence in a grey backyard. Tomorrow would be Christmas Day, and she had only $1.87 with which to buy Jim a present. She had been saving every penny she could for months with this result. $20 a week doesn't go far. Expenses had been greater than she had calculated. They always are. Only $1.87 to buy a present for Jim, her Jim. Many a happy hour she had spent planning for something nice for him, something fine and rare and sterling, something just a little bit near to being worthy of the honor of being owned by Jim. Fantastic paragraph, guys. A big one. It was a big one, but how beautifully is it written? There are a lot of observations. The first one is the repetition figures of speech. The grey cat walking a grey fence and a grey backyard. So this is repetition because the word grey is repeated. Mind you, this is the US spelling. This is an American story. You see the currency is dollars here. G-R-E-Y is actually the spelling in UK. Remember that. I've made a note of that over here, guys. Definitely a thing to jot down. And it means dull. So everything was dull because nothing was exciting at all. I mean, what's the point? She wanted to gift something, but she has no money. The plans are, I mean, if wishes were horses, then beggars would ride, they say. Is it not? I'll come on camp for that. What did I just say? If wishes were horses, then beggars would ride. It's a very popular proverb. If you had not heard of that, something new, some addition to your knowledge. It's very popular. I won't be surprised if I am not the first one to if to tell you that. So she thought a lot. She had plans, but what is the point? What does she have? $1.87. Come on, what could she have done with that? What's the next entry? She had been saving every penny. So this is to identify the tense. Now look at this. Had been plus ing. I repeat, had been plus not being, okay, been. She had been and ing added to that. So this is past perfect continuous tense. Again, bear in mind the spelling of continuous is C-O-N-T-I-N-U-O-U-S and not N-O-U-S. So they'll ask you to identify the tense. I'm sure that you will get full marks here. What's the next? This is simply amazing. This is why you got to appreciate the writers. The impact line. This is so nice. The sentence has only 2 words. Only 2 words. She wanted to buy a present for Jim. Her Jim. Isn't it beauty? Isn't it just lovely? It's beautiful. The point is, in 2 words, the writer just puts a full stop. Her Jim. Full stop. So she had definite plans for Jim. That goes to show there was definite thought into it. And another time for another proverb. It's the thought that counts. What did I just say? It is the thought that counts. What is the meaning of that? Let me tell you. Suppose you want to gift something to your friend. Okay? Unfortunately, you decided that you're going to do it from your pocket money. You're not going to ask your parents for the money. Suppose you're running a little short in cash. And instead of what you had originally planned, you give something else. Of course, something good, but not what you initially had in mind. And you tell your friend about it that, look, I wanted to give you something else and I had thought about it, but I'm sorry, this is what I could manage. Then your friend is likely to tell you, it's a thought that counts, which means that the very fact that you wanted to do something for me is impressive. What you actually managed with the available resources is secondary. It's the thought that counts, that you wanted to do something for me. And I'm sure that it must have happened to you as a child. You know, it was your mom's birthday or your dad's birthday, and you made a handwritten greeting card or something like that. You made it. You didn't buy that. You made the greeting card, and maybe you were you were almost only, let's say, 7 or 8 years, and then the drawing was messy, the handwriting was not good, but you know what? I'm sure that your parents are still happy. Again, why? Because it's the thought that counts. You wanted to do something for them, and that is very important. Let me know in the comments, guys, if something like that has happened, where you can share with me what was the occasion where it's the thought that counted. So Della had a thought, but what was the point? So what else is there? This is the impact short line, guys. So with which to buy a present for Jim, her Jim. I just love the way O. Henry has written this. There is one more entry, and I'm sure when I was reading it, and you know what? You can again actually just go back a little and listen to my reading again. You must have clearly noticed that this is climax. It's definitely in an ascending order. So it's the figures of speech, fine and rare and sterling. So this is the climax. The figures of speech used is climax. It is going in the ascending order. How should the gift be? It should be fine. It should be something rare. It should be something sterling, meaning very valuable, sparkling, or something like that. That's it, guys. Now for this one, should I give you a couple of minutes? No, again, a minute should be fine here, guys, because the impact short sentence is just a note. 1 minute should be fine. Your time starts now. I'll be with you at the end of this minute. Okay, so your time is up again. I have no doubt that you did the needful. Guys, before we go ahead and see the next slide, there have been rather a few emails I've received. They say that you should put your email onto the slider somewhere. Well, it would be boring with the same slider with the email. So I somehow don't appreciate that idea. However, I will make sure that within the hour somewhere I will reveal my email ID. Okay, let's do it now. Let's go to the notepad and quickly you should jot down the email ID if you yet don't know my email ID, that is. So please make a note of it. Your answers could be sent on this one. So it's happening Ameya at gmail.com. Well, that's my name, and then here is your Gmail ID. Okay, fine then. Let's go back to. I hope you have made a note of it. So happening Ameya at gmail.com. And now the next one. As usual, I've started reading it now. So stop doing your work and focus on the paragraph. There was a pier glass between the windows of the room. Perhaps you have seen a pier glass in an $8 flat. A very thin and very agile person may, by observing his reflection in a rapid sequence of longitudinal stripes, obtain a fairly accurate conception of his looks. Della, being slender, had mastered the art. So let's look at what are the important entries here. Pier glass, a large mirror used to fill space or spaces between windows. You should actually go ahead and Wikipedia this. You would get an image. I probably should have pasted an image here, but yeah, you can do that. That's a pier glass, okay? It's a large mirror between the walls just to fill the space. The next one is agile. Guys, it's not agile. The G doesn't make the G sound, okay? Agile. So what is this quality? Being quick and light-footed. A very thin and very agile person. Now, Della was slender, very gracefully thin, not malnourished thin, okay? Guys, very, very important. Slender is something that is positive, okay? Frail and feeble is something that is malnourished, out of lack of food or due to disease. But here we are saying that Della was incredibly beautiful. Della had lovely hair, by the way. I'll not talk a lot about it because it's in the subsequent slide. Let me not give anything away. Just remember, Della was slender, and that's why every time she used to look in the mirror, she used to be happy. In the girls' world, I told you, it's very special, always special. Is there any other entry? No, no other entry here. I guess again, it's that time where I don't think I should give you a separate minute for this, guys. Just 3 simple entries. You can pause the video and then continue with the video once you are ready. For now, I am going to go to the next slide. So stay focused. Suddenly, she whirled from the window and stood before the glass. Her eyes were shining brilliantly, but her face had lost its color within 20 seconds. Rapidly, she pulled down her hair and let it fall to its full length. Guys, we are now slowly coming to her beauty related aspects. But what are the entries here? Whirled, meaning move round and round. Okay, so she just moved, she just circled, and she stood there with an idea. Her eyes were shining brilliantly, but oops, what happened? She lost. The face became pale. The face had lost its color within 20 seconds. Rapidly, she pulled down her hair and let it fall to its full length. Guys, this makes it clear that Della looked in the mirror. She had a plan. And now I think that she realized that I have a plan, all right. But that if that plan has to work, it will come at a cost. I think that realization made her sad. So there was shine in her eyes. She was happy, and then within seconds, the happiness disappeared, and now her face turned pale. P-A-L-E. And I think we saw this in the last lecture when we studied the 9th standard chapter. P-A-L-E. So the face lost its color. Do we have anything else to study on this slide? Yes, lost its color is become pale. Now that's it then. So again, do I give you a minute? Well, not necessary at all. Just a couple of entries and you can pause the video. So let's proceed to the next slide. Pay attention, guys. Now this is really where the lesson starts, because now you know the house, you know that they're poor, you know about their poverty, their difficulties. Now the lesson starts. So pay attention. Enjoy. Now there were two possessions of James Dillingham Young in which they both took a mighty pride. One was Jim's gold watch, that had been his father's and his grandfather's. So I think it's a legacy. It's something that is inherited. It's their legacy, their family tradition and property. The other was Della's hair. Magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. Had the Queen of Sheba lived in a flat across the air shaft, Della would have let her hair hang out of the window. It should have been, guys. The lesson actually, I don't know why it doesn't mention that. It's not my typing error. It's just a printout from the lesson. Some day to dry just to depreciate Her Majesty's jewels and gifts. I'll explain, don't worry. Had King Solomon been the janitor with all his treasures piled up in the basement, Jim would have pulled out his watch every time he passed just to see him pluck at his beard from envy. So what is this? Let me come on cam to explain everything. The couple had two invaluable things. I repeat, they were poor. They were poor. If you are wondering they were poor, so how did Jim have a gold watch? I think the lesson answered that. He didn't buy it. It's a legacy. He's inherited that property. His father's and his grandfather's. And now it belonged to Jim. So that's the first. Second, Della's lovely hair. Well, this is far from lovely. At the moment, this is... okay, let's talk about Della. So, Della's beautiful brown hair. Now, the other thing is, what's with the Queen Sheba and King Solomon? The writer is saying that had Queen Sheba lived across the apartment somewhere near, she would have been jealous of Della because of her hair. That good quality was there. In something special about Della. Okay, and had King Solomon been there, then Jim could have boasted, B-O-A-S-T-E-D. Jim would have boasted of his gold watch, and even King Solomon would have, felt envious, jealous again of his possession. So there were two possessions that the couple had. One was Jim's gold watch, the other was Della's lovely hair, and they were so valuable that even the king and the queens would have been jealous. I hope you've understood. There was this word janitor. I don't know if you know this, if you heard of this. This word, guys, over here, janitor, is a caretaker, guys, or the guy, the maintenance guy. The caretaker or the maintenance guy, janitor. Let's go ahead and actually make a note of this in our notepad. Let me take you there. So here is our notepad, and the second entry. Well, this nickname thing was the first entry, guys. Second entry, I shared my email ID with you, and now this one. Janitor is the caretaker, or you could say the maintenance guy. Okay, that's a janitor. So if he was a janitor, some caretaker, someone who stays across or stays near would have been jealous. And pluck is to, what was the word? I guess we had this word pluck. Let's go back to the PPT, guys. Yeah, over here. Definitely, you have this word pluck. It's to pull. Simple. Pull out. Not just pull, but to pull out. Guys, I don't think that you need a minute at all for this. You must have jotted down the entry in the notepad whilst I was doing. If not, you can go back, rewind the video and do the needful. At the moment, without further delay, just let's simply go to the next one because the lesson is getting so interesting. By the way, don't worry that she has actually used a fork for tying the hair properly. But this was just to emphasize the lovely brown hair Della had. Okay, pay undivided attention. I'm about to start reading the next paragraph. So now Della's beautiful hair fell about her, rippling and shining like a cascade of brown waters. It reached below her knee and made itself almost a garment for her. And then she did it up again nervously and quickly. Once she faltered for a minute and stood still while a tear or two splashed on the worn red carpet. Guys, this is written so beautifully, so beautifully. And what's the most interesting fact there? The word cascade. Guys, Della's hair is so beautiful that the writer has said and expressed it as a brown cascade. Cascade is a waterfall. So when her hair just fell, she must have untied them, is it not? So it was nothing but a brown waterfall. Beautiful. Sure, the girls are loving this. Imagine the comparison done there. The writer is saying that it was nothing but a brown waterfall and the word is cascade. I'm sure this word is new for you. Cascade. Remember the pronunciation, okay? The pronunciation is cascade. Absolutely remarkably written, this lesson, I'm telling you. Now, the entries, cascade, I told you, is a small waterfall, and the waterfall, of course, brown waters, and I'm sure you know why it's brown waters, because the color of her hair was brown. Faltered is to lose momentum. That is L-O-S-E, okay, not L-O-O-S-E. So, lose momentum or show hesitation. So, she, you know what, she had this momentum where she was happy, and then she was again sad. We have discussed this in the previous slide as well. And what happened, guys? A tear or two splashed on the worn red carpet. So actually she started crying. So I have no doubt that she has definitely made her mind. She has a plan. She wants to do something. We'll find it out soon. But because of that, she was crying and a tear or two fell on the worn red carpet. Worn, again, can you tell me the word we studied? For, I tell you, beginning with D, to be in state of disrepair due to passage of time. We studied that in this lecture. I'm sure you were able to tell me. Dilapidated. We saw this word today itself. Dilapidated. So the red carpet, we use that with reference to the couch. Remember? So the red carpet is also old. Everything in the house is old. They don't have money they cannot afford anything new. So she cried and the tears fell on the worn red carpet. So she took a look at her hair and she started crying. So let's find out what her plan is. But let us see if there are any more entries here. That's it. No more entries. And there are only 2 entries in total here. So I don't think I'm going to give you a separate countdown timer for this. Let us quickly go to the next slide. Pay proper undivided attention, guys. The lesson has just really gotten interesting. On went her old brown jacket. Guys, you remember this? We did this about how to fix the adjectives. See, it will be so odd had the writer written the other way. Had the writer written brown old jacket. Brown old jacket. Are you getting what I'm saying? Brown old jacket. It would be wrong. It would sound wrong. Brown old jacket. Old brown jacket. It just sounds so correct. Officially, there is no rule about this, but then when you constantly use English, you know what order seems okay and what order does not seem okay. It's a very interesting observation. Some lectures ago, we did talk about this, okay? Very important. It's not brown old jacket, old brown jacket. So on went her old brown jacket, on went her old brown hat. Again, a classic example of repetition, guys. Old brown. With a whirl of skirts and with the brilliant sparkles still in her eyes, she fluttered out of the door. Again, there's this word missing here, guys. The textbook has done so, and maybe I think the writer has written the lesson in such a way. It's American English. There is all the reason probably to believe that it has been written that way rather than to assume that there's mistake in the textbook. It's not my typing, guys. It's a screenshot of the textbook. In the textbook itself, this is missing. So maybe it's the writing style, or maybe he is talking of a typical language that exists in a certain part of America where they omit such words. Anyway, let's continue. Out of the door and down the stairs to the street. Where she stopped, the sign read, Madame Sofronie. Guys, this is French in origin. This M-N-E is Madame. We saw that in a 9th standard lesson in one of the previous lectures. Hair goods of all kinds. That's why you have A capital, all kinds. One flight up Della ran and collected herself panting. Madame, large, too white, chilly, hardly looked the Sofronie. Let me explain this to you, but first the entries that I've already made. There's something that I want to share with you. I will after these entries. Fluttered means dance or move with the beats. Why was she dancing or moving with beats? We've already seen that, guys. Della has a plan and now she is going to execute that plan. And that is why she was moving about in a definite rhythm. Okay. And she approached Sofronie. Now, how was this Sofronie thing? There is this repetition I told you guys, old brown and old brown. Please make a note of that. Panting. Now, what is panting? Breathe heavily due to exertion or excitement. Guys, if you run hard, you walk fast, you gasp, is it not? You breathe heavily. Well, that is gasping or that is panting. It's got nothing to do with wearing pants, mind you. That's the difference. That's English for you. P-A-N-T and P-A-N-T-S. So different. Pant and pants. So different. Good and goods. Good is a quality. Goods are commodities. Goods and services. Economics. Right? Okay. Let's see what else. I told you I was going to share something. Yeah, there is this Sofronie thing. Exactly. This is the point I was wanting to talk. I'm glad I mentioned it here. She wasn't quite what she advertised. Guys, I want you to pay attention here. What did the board read? Madame Sofronie. Now, the lesson mentions that she was large. Probably she was overweight. She was too white. She was chilly. She hardly looked the Sofronie. So let me explain that. What the lesson here is, guys, trying to say is that when you think of the name Sofronie, there are certain qualities you associate, is it not? But Madame Sofronie was completely the opposite. Her English is not so sophisticated. We'll find that out in the next slide, in the subsequent slides. Moreover, she ran a cosmetic store or a store where she sold hair goods of all kinds. It's a beauty shop. And she was not looking in great shape. She was chilly. What do you mean by that? I think she had a cold look on her face, not as enthusiastic as she should have been. That is why the writer says that she hardly looked the Sofronie. That's why the article is very important. The Sofronie. Observe this, guys. The Sofronie. Very important. She hardly looked the Sofronie. All right, now before, well, let me give you a minute for this one, sure? Yeah, I'm going to give you a minute for this one. I'll join you at the end of this minute. All right, your time is up. And I'm sure that you have made the necessary notes. Guys, let me come on cam. We are almost approaching an hour of our recording. So the next slide will be the last slide. And then we will continue the story in the next lecture. That is on Monday. I will record it on Monday. We'll probably post it on Tuesday. So let's quickly go to the last slide to be studied for today. Let me read it. Again, stop doing your work and give me your undivided attention. Will you buy my hair? Asked Della. So she's talking to Madame Sofroni here. Will you buy my hair? Asked Della. I buy hair. Look at the bad English here. I do buy hair, but she said I buy hair. Take your hat. Now your is your, okay? Take your hat off and let's have a sight at the looks of it. Down rippled the brown cascade. I'm sure you remember. This is the waterfall, the brown waterfall. $20, said Madame, lifting the mass with a practiced hand. Give it to me quick, said Della. Guys, so let me explain the scene. First of all, now you have realized that she's not Sofroni, the Sofroni. She says yeah. This is accent, I think. American accent, a part of it. She probably, I don't know, she said yeah or something. Your, Y-O-U-R. So she said, take your hat off and then let's have the sight at the looks of it. So then down went the waterfall, the brown waterfall, and she said, she held the hair in her hand to check the quality of the hair. And Madame Sofroni said, I will give you $20 for it. And Della was so happy. Della was so happy. Della said, give it to me quick. And by the way, it should be give it to me quickly. The lesson said, give it to me quick. It should be give it to me quickly. But again, this is the character talking. They are not English professors. So she said, give it to me quick. And now the girls, the women, the ladies watching this, imagine the split second quick decision. She said, $20, give it to me quick. What is she going to do? She's going to sell her hair. Well-maintained, beautiful, lovely hair. Now, you know, well, that's a big thing. Very big thing. I'm sure, you know, the girls would appreciate what Della is doing. And we all know she's doing it for Jim. Her Jim, right? We saw that earlier. Beautiful. Let's see if there are any entries here. And we are going to definitely stop. Will you buy my hair? This is for change the voice. Nice entry. Interrogative, change the voice. Will you buy my hair? Will my hair be bought by you? Guys, we did this in some previous lecture. The difference between brought and bought. So this one is a past participle of buy. You want the word bought. Okay. Next entry, I told you, this is part of the accent. So yer is actually your. Give it to me quick. And it should be give it to me quickly, by the way. Over here, it should be give it to me quickly. And add a question tag is a grammar entry. Give it to me quickly. Will you? And I've deliberated on this previously that there are two correct answers. Give it to me quickly, will you? Or give it to me quickly, won't you? Because theoretically positive should become negative. Both are correct answers. All right. We are going to stop here. I know, I wish we could have continued, but we will. I will record the lecture on Monday and we'll take the story forward. So far, the story is just gotten at a critical moment where Della has sold her hair for $20. Guys, quickly do the maths. Now, how much money does she have? She had $1.87 with her, right? So now she has $21.87 after she, sold the hair. Now, what happens with it? What is she going to buy for Jim? What is Jim going to do for her? We'll find out. I'm sure that you would love just the suspense to be that way, so I will not reveal much. Up until next time, please take care. Do not venture outside unnecessarily due to this COVID-19 thing, and take care. We will meet again very soon. Okay?